Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. This is Zero from TechDragon.info, and today I'm going to take you on a magical adventure to try to figure out what the hell the developers did to this tank. So, actually, I need to grab the patch. No, actually, no, I don't need to grab the patch notes because there's nothing in the patch notes. Okay, so in short, the Super Pershing has changed. And that's about all they gave us. That's all we have to go on. That's not entirely true. Between comparing this one and the one on the live server, I've already figured out a couple of things. We gained some hit points, 50. Not great, but you know, it's 50 more hit points. We've gained 10 meters view range. Again, you know, it's not a bad thing to get. Definitely not a bad thing to get. We gained speed limit. Okay then. And that's it. Not quite. That's just for the visible stats. Now, I will get back to that in a little bit, but for starters, I was really pissed off. Because when I looked at the armor, I'll show you what I mean. I looked at it from this angle and I was like, there is no secondary plate here. It doesn't exist. They've removed a armor plate. What the hell? So we went from 2 plates of spaced armor to 1. What the? But if you turn it just right, you can see there is still a secondary plate in here. They did not remove it. So my initial thoughts were wrong. I'll put it out there. I was wrong. What they've done is they increased, I guess it is, the angle of this plate. It's now at a steeper angle than it was before. Before, the point bit, you know, where it comes together here, was like right here-ish, just outside the track when you looked at it from the side. So it was a steeper, well, it's just over-exaggerated, it was a steeper angle like this, not that bad, but which means that shells that come in have a pretty decent angle on. Well, not quite, but they've made it steeper, so a shell that comes in has further to travel through this plate, effectively increasing the armor. So they didn't decrease the armor, they actually buffed it because of the extra angle. So I was pleasantly surprised to figure that one out. So we still have the inner plate, as you can see. I don't know why I missed it the first time. I looked at it from this angle and, you know, a bit further out, and it's like, I don't see the secondary plate in here, because that's the hull. If you actually zoom in and you look very closely, you see that that is the hull. That's the secondary plate. This is the first plate. So, yeah, that was just me being stupid. As you can see, the other plate does not go up very high. It's like right there, which means that plate only goes to here. So this is still the weak spot when you have enough penetration. But shh, don't tell anyone. And that is almost it for the changes to the Super Pershing. Now I have a theory, and I'll get back to that. And we'll test this armor out, but right now, Lola is actually not here yet, so I can't test it out directly, but by the end of this video, she'll magically have appeared and we can test it out. We can see if there's any changes with this armor. So, before that, I'm going to I'm going to show you a replay of a game I just did. And it's not a particularly good game, but I'll just grab some quick highlights out of it, show you that, and show you the after battle results, because there's something interesting there as well. So, let's take a look. Slight problem. Apparently a developer thought it was a good idea to turn off save replays per default. Anyways, as you can see here, we have missions. You actually get an idea when you finish the mission, so you can actually see where the event experience is coming from. So you have descriptions here of, you know, what event, who, what, where. You have your different missions here with a more detailed thingy. This is the one I don't think I finished this one. No, I finished the last one, mission 2. As you can see here, test apparently had to kill one of these tanks, and then I would get 10k extra money. There we go, 10k extra. This is what's upcoming. It's not available yet, but it has a date, Friday the 13th, well, 30th. So yeah. Okay, so this game was pretty shitty. It's a test server, they usually are. As you can see, made pretty poor money. I did pretty horrendously bad. I took 2 bounces, or I bounced 2 shots, but that was about it. During the course of that battle, I had a feeling that the Super Pershing was faster. So I decided to do a test. So I called in my trusty minion here, Jamie. Thank you for helping out. And I tested out what it was like to do the exact same course, I guess, map, and go from one end to the other. And it was a surprising change in there. It actually was a 13-second difference between the 2 trips of a nearly identical trip. And as you can see here, yeah, it was 13 seconds faster, which, if you translate it to the time that they spent on doing that, is about 11% faster. So what they did is they didn't change the engine, they changed the ground resistance of the tracks, one of those soft stats that you cannot see anywhere. But I had a feeling it was nimbler, and this proves it. Yeah, definitely a difference between the 2. You can really notice the difference. It's one of those sneaky little things that they've done with the Super Pershing that you couldn't tell straight away from looking at it. So, the difference in the front armor, I've made 2 images here. On the left we see the old, and on the right we see the new. You can see that the angle has definitely changed on the armor, and especially on the secondary plate below it and the hull armor. The hull is way further back than it was before. If you look at the first picture and the old one, you can actually see the hull is sticking out in front of the tracks, while with the new situation, the hull is behind the track drive wheel there. I've done a lot of testing with Lola, and thank you for that. None of that actually made it in here because the armor seems to behave exactly the same as it did before. The armor does not seem to be any better or any worse than before. However, big however, the angle of the armor has changed, and the angle of the armor below the top plate has changed. Now, this could in fact mean that you have a better chance of ricocheting than you did before, because the angle is slightly steeper now. I couldn't really tune into that exact amount of penetration that you needed to bounce and all that, but I think if you angle slightly and they hit your upper plate and they have about 180 roughly pen, then you have a chance now to bounce where before they would penetrate you. So there might be a little bit there, but don't expect any miracles from this armor. 99% of the time it's gonna behave exactly the same as it did before. However, this I could not test. It's very hard to test because of it. I'll explain in a second. But I'm thinking, if you look at this picture, you look at the left and then you look at the right. You see on the right hand side, on the new one, there's a lot more space between the spaced armors. This is very important. Now, what I said before in a video is that when they announced changes, and they said there could be a dip in the performance of the Super Pershing, that would indicate that they would work towards a fix, because they said there would be a dip, and then it would be better, because otherwise it wouldn't be a dip. So I knew that they were going to buff it, and that's what I did say in my previous video, and I was right. They did buff it, because if you look at the right one, the new one, you see there's more space between, and the Super Pershing, the changes were announced the same patch that the high explosive shells changed. High explosive went from a standard calculation of extra damage blah 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 to incorporate spaced armor. The further the distance the explosion has to carry towards the hull, the less damage it will do. So the more space or the more distance it travels, the less damage it does. Guess what? Super Pershing had spaced armor, but it was packed together with almost no space, as you can see on the old one. Now you have space between your armor, which means you are able to resist a lot more high explosive shells to the front of your armor. I'm pretty sure that is exactly what they were getting at, and that's exactly why they changed it. I tried with a high explosive shell on the T25/2. It couldn't do shit anyways. So I'm guessing with the larger caliber high explosive shells, artillery, but also just like SU-152, but I don't have it on the live server, so I couldn't test that. But I'm thinking that that is the difference. High explosive will do shit tons less now because there is space between your spaced armor and your hull has been retracted back towards the tank, basically back in. And that, I'm pretty sure, is the difference in this tank. So let's sum up the changes here. So 50 more HP, 10 more meters of view range, less ground resistance, which I already showed you, makes you go faster in the long run, slightly more maneuverable, and the spaced armor changed, the angle of the armor changed, both the outer plate and the inner plate. The actual hull was retracted back into the tank slightly, so more distance from your outer plate, which in theory should definitely give it more protection from high explosive to your front. And with the angles changed, you might have slightly more chance to bounce shells with roughly 180 millimeters of pen. So those are about the changes. So anything and everything I found so far seems that the Super Pershing got buffed. It's not a massive buff, but it does seem to be buffed slightly. Gun's still the same, still slow, but it did get a slight buff, a little bit more survivability. You see people a little bit faster. You go slightly faster, slightly more maneuverable, and you have more survivability because of your frontal armor slightly more. So I was pleasantly surprised by these findings, so I'm quite happy with this. Hopefully this will help you decide on keeping your Super Pershing or not, or even buying one. The long-awaited / feared, I guess, nerfs are in fact slight, very, very slight buffs, so yay, I can keep my Super Pershing, which is actually a good thing. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more, please subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.